He was 16 years old. He spent 1,086 days in jail. He was never convicted. He was never tried. The only witness eventually left the country and could not be located. When the case was dismissed, Kalief Browder walked out of Rikers Island at 19, 3 years older than when he arrived, with no conviction, no explanation, and no one waiting to answer for what the system had done to him. The charge: a stolen backpack. He insisted he had not done it. No physical evidence linked him to the theft. One man on the street said Kalief had stolen from him weeks earlier. That statement was enough to arrest him. Bail was set at $3,000. His family did not have $3,000. So Kalief went to Rikers and stayed. On May 14, 2010, Kalief was walking home in the Bronx after a party when officers arrested him. The accusation was not for a theft that occurred that night, but for one allegedly committed weeks earlier. There was no backpack. There was no corroboration. There was only an allegation and the authority of the arresting officers. He was charged, processed, and transferred to Rikers Island. As a 16-year-old, he was tried as an adult under New York law, then in force. He told everyone who would listen that he was innocent. The bail did not aim to protect public safety. It functioned as a financial barrier that his family could not overcome. In the pretrial system, inability to pay bail is indistinguishable from punishment. Over the next 1,086 days, the courts adjourned his case more than 30 times. Each hearing produced a request for more time from the prosecution and a judicial grant. Speedy trial laws exist to prevent precisely this delay, yet those protections were repeatedly stretched. Prosecutors offered plea deals that would have meant immediate release in exchange for a guilty plea. Each time Kalief refused, he would not admit guilt for something he said he did not do. A teenager inside Rikers chose integrity over freedom, obtained through false confession. That refusal shaped the next 3 years of his life. Rikers Island in 2010 was not an abstract danger. It was a cluster of violent facilities where assaults among incarcerated people were routine and where misconduct by correction officers was documented. Placed in an adult facility at 16, Kalief faced daily physical threats and institutional indifference. The environment he entered was loud, threatening, and often brutal. Medical records, legal filings, later surveillance footage, and Kalief's own accounts paint a consistent picture: a young person placed into a system neither designed nor prepared to protect him. For nearly 700 of those days, Kalief was placed in solitary confinement. He spent 23 hours a day inside a cell 6 feet by 8 feet, 1 hour outside. Human contact was essentially eliminated. The documented psychological effects of prolonged isolation are severe: anxiety, paranoia, depression, hallucinations, and traumatic stress. For adolescents with developing brains, the damage is deeper and less reversible. Kalief attempted suicide multiple times while detained. He tied sheets, attempted to hang himself, and refused food in protest. He was placed on observation and then returned to isolation. He endured this not as a convicted offender, but as a pretrial detainee whose family lacked bail money. In 2014, surveillance footage obtained by journalists showed episodes of violence involving Kalief. The footage depicted him being struck by correction officers and assaulted by other incarcerated men, while officers either failed to intervene or were directly involved. Kalief had filed complaints. He had named names. Those complaints produced little in the way of accountability. No officer was criminally charged for the documented assaults. The recordings existed in city possession before publication, and yet the criminal justice response was limited, delayed, and primarily political rather than prosecutorial. Kalief was released in June 2013 when the Bronx District Attorney's Office moved to dismiss the case. The complainant was unavailable, having returned to Mexico. There was no trial, no verdict, no finding of guilt. He walked free at 19 and attempted to reclaim life interrupted. He enrolled in community college, granted interviews, and tried to reconnect with friends and family. The outside world, however, did not erase what Rikers had imprinted on him. He reported recurring nightmares, voices, paranoia, and profound depression. The psychiatric harm persisted and deepened after release. 2 years after his release, on June 6, 2015, Kalief Browder died by suicide at his family home. He was 22. His mother, Browder, fought publicly for accountability until her death from heart failure in October 2016. The city later settled with the family for $3.3 million. New York State banned solitary confinement for inmates under 22 and moved to change how 16 and 17-year-olds are prosecuted. Officials announced plans to close Rikers, although closure has been repeatedly delayed and conditions remain contested. These reforms are real, but they are reactive. Policy shifts followed a death. Systemic failure required public visibility and political pressure to create change. No individual was ever criminally charged for the treatment Kalief endured. The bail system, the habitual adjournments, the use of solitary on adolescents, and a prosecution practice that requested delay rather than resolution combined to produce a tragedy. Kalief Browder's story is not an anomaly. It is an illustration of a system that treats poverty as culpability, delay as procedure, and isolation as management. 1,086 days was not an error. It was a system at work. Subscribe to Case Files TV, because this is not just a case. It is a pattern that demands scrutiny and accountability.